Welcome back to the This Is Me podcast. I'm Karen.
And I'm Ellie, and today we have Laura joining us. Laura is the Managing Director of the Armed Forces Community Headquarters. So Laura, thank you so much for joining us today. And to kick us off, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and how you sort of got to where you are today?
Hello, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I know we've only got 45 minutes to an hour, but it is a really rather long story, but we'll get cracking somewhere.
Well, you can have 2 hours if you want.
For 2 hours. So my journey with Armed Forces Community Headquarters started in 2019, and I joined the board as the Managing Director. And there's a long winding tale of how I got there. But I think it's important to kind of reflect on why I made a decision to lead and manage a business rather than working within a business, which I'd done for many, many years. So I am a mother. I have 2 daughters. I'm a grandmother. I have a grandson with dangly bits, and
you don't look old enough.
It's the collagen.
It's the elevator.
Every day.
Yeah, for anybody listening, we've had a pre-discussion about the best collagen brands, and I think Laura's is working better than mine.
Doing all right, we shall see. Got some energy today anyway, so fingers crossed. So yeah, I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I am a sister. I have 2 sisters. We all have nieces, and then we just got landed with this grandson that we didn't know what to do with. And I've had a bit of a history in my life as being a mother. So I've had 2 children, but very far apart.
Right.
So my first daughter, Elise, was born when I got pregnant when I was 18. She was born when I was 19. And my second daughter, Madison, I had in my mid-30s. So very different experiences of parenting and support. But I suppose my tale starts really being 19, having this absolute beautiful bundle of joy in my arms and thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And I think, a lot of people see you as a gym slip mum and write you off. So you have 2 choices to make. Do I stay on benefits and in social housing until my child gets old enough to go to school, where then I might get a part-time job, try and get back into the labour market? Or do I actually bite the bullet and go back to work? It's a really difficult choice to make because I think no mother wants to put their child in childcare and not see those beautiful days and have all those firsts and experiences. But I don't think being a stay-at-home mum was for me. I've always been quite inquisitive and curious, and I didn't want that life for me or my daughter. So I chose to go back to work very early and put my child in nursery. And by Christ, it was difficult. So I remember, having decent full-time jobs. My career started really working for an organisation called Rathbone. I'd been in the retail industry previously, and they took me on as a trainee MVQ assessor. And I would work with underprivileged children and disadvantaged children to help them get their MVQs. And that's really where my career started. So that was lovely, and it gave me a strong sense of purpose. So all my qualifications that I've attained through working and not through schooling, because I had a baby, couldn't go to university. So yeah, I mean, and those were hard times. So trying to pay rent on a property and childcare costs on my own as a single mum. And I always say to my mum now when we're sitting having a coffee, do you remember when I used to come with my carrier bag? And I'd always leave my mum's house a couple of times a week with a toilet roll, possibly some bleach or some fairy liquid, and all the buy one, get one free meals that she'd got from a shop at Sainsbury's. And I'd, get my pram because she'd have picked the little one up from school or nursery, and I'd toddle home with my carrier bag of my mum's, spare bits. And that's how I got through, really, the first couple of years of my life. It was really hard.
Who did you? Who did you? I'm really interested where you said you had 2 pathways, and you could either be this or this. How did you get to choose? Did you have people around you, or was it all reflection? How did you decide which pathway to take?
I think it was actually seeing the people that I was surrounded who were in a similar position to me and thinking, I don't want to be where you are in the next couple of years. So maybe people who had kids that were just starting school and people were thinking, can I get a part-time job at Tesco's just to get back
Yeah.
into the labour market? And I'm thinking, if I leave it now, like I'm going to be so behind, and then I'm a really like I want it now
Yeah.
person. So I've never been somebody who can kind of sit back and wait for things to
Yeah.
happen. I'm like, I don't want to be in a position like in my mid-20s where I'm just starting to enter the labour market and just seeing people struggling financially. And at that time, it was the time of, your Provident loans.
Yeah.
So you get like a Provident loan, and then you'd come knocking and people were hiding behind the couches. Like that's where I came from. That's
Yeah, so did I. Ellie won't know about that. As was the
No.
Prudent and Britannia, and they would come knocking on the door like
yeah, you
for
go
for
turn the
you
lights off, and
turn the lights on.
Manza, yeah, get behind the couch. Like I've been there, I've done it, and I didn't want that life for
No.
me. So I got on a pathway with an organisation who offered me amazing training and experiences. And then I bought my first social housing property
Did
off the
you?
council. I got a massive discount. And that really kind of set me up. And I thought, oh, you know what? Look at you, Laura. Like, you've had this child and been written off a little bit. And now you've got a career and you've got a house. And, my mum's like, I'm really proud of you. Because I could have chosen a very different path. I
Yeah.
could have sat receiving benefits, but spending time with my child.
Yeah, and I understand it as well, because it is a really difficult position when you're in it. There's like, I know that there is a lot of options for help and stuff like that, but I don't think it's as easily accessible as it's sort of made out to be, if that makes sense. And if you don't,
No.
if you don't know what you're doing, if you are unsure, then I can see how you do carry on doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. But
I do also think, sorry, we might come back to it later because of what you do now, but I do also think my side was I'd always been in like my start was retail, and I also think that you said it. There's a hesitancy from employers about labelling single mums.
Yeah.
So I think not only the path you took was hard, there are not many employers that would have supported that. So I think that's also a massive challenge for people about the labels of single mums. So
yeah,
you've started your pathway with all your training. Yeah, you've got your social housing, which is
bought
awesome,
me
isn't it?
social
Yeah,
housing,
yeah,
bought me social housing, got
yeah.
myself
That's
up the
amazing.
ladder. And then working with young people who have challenges is really hard, and there's a shelf life to it.
Yeah,
Because when you're quite empathic and you're a caregiver, because nobody enters the charitable support sector if they can't, if they don't have that vocation, it becomes really hard seeing young people and not being able to do much about their kind of challenges and barriers. So I moved from working with young people, and we moved into the welfare to work arena, where I spent a good many years. And I loved my job working in welfare to work. So I had a couple of sites, one in Rochdale and one in Oldham. And we would deliver those programs where if you hadn't worked for so long, you got sent to a
yeah.
program for a week, and you
Yeah.
do your
We
CV.
used to run them, didn't we, Elle? The
I was gonna
employability ones.
say,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. It
Well,
was.
I only did a couple of them, but yeah, way back when, yeah.
It
So I
teaches you
worked.
about people's motivating people who've
It,
been
it
sent somewhere,
does.
doesn't it? It
But
does.
it's also very surprising. And I think at that point, that would be instrumental in me thinking about people's behaviour and why they behaved the
Yeah,
way they did and why they were stuck in the situations they were stuck in. And I always remember thinking, like, coming to a CV workshop isn't going to tackle that issue that you've got because you're clearly drinking every day because you come in here and we can smell it on you. Or you can't turn up on time. We were always like touching on the
yeah,
surface of what was
yeah,
going on and helping where we could. But there was no kind of real opportunity to deep dive into what was truly going on with people and why they were kind of stuck in this
yeah,
cycle of worklessness. And when you see somebody who's been stuck in a cycle of worklessness, like prosper and move on and get a job, like
yeah.
that's like job satisfaction at its highest. So I had an amazing couple of years working for an organisation called Inspire to Independence. And they were really an organisation that taught me some core values about leadership. So working for that organisation, I always felt supported. I always felt seen. And what was beautiful about it is they were very family orientated leadership team. So if you have a problem with your child, it's no problem. You need to look after your child. And because I enjoyed those values so much, and they meant so much to me, because your little one gets sick or your childcare's gone, the first thing you worry about is, oh gosh, what about my job, my employment? And Ellie, my youngest, had problems with her kidneys for many, many years. She's got a health condition called horseshoe kidney. So she was always in and out of hospital. And it was really hard to kind of keep a job because nobody wants somebody there who's, going to be in hospital with a child a couple of days a week. And that went on for years. And this was the first organisation really that understood what my needs were as a mother. And then because of that, I gave them everything I had.
Yeah.
And we had amazing results. And I've taken those values throughout my leadership journey. So I did that for a bit. And then I got an opportunity to work within the substance misuse sector. Wanted a bit of a change. And I think when you start seeing that quite a lot of the issues that were coming up from worklessness were centred around the misuse of substances, whether that be drugs, alcohol, or prescription drugs, which we don't talk about as widely as the illicit substances. I thought maybe I can make a difference in this sector. So still charitable, still kind of large national charity, and I went to do that for many, many years. And
what did you do in that job? What was your job?
Oh gosh! So I started off as a service manager for
a
service in Bolton, and it was a new service, and there was a kind of those substance misuse services tend to be clinically driven. So a lot of those services were delivered by either NHS foundations or clinical organisations. And it was just at the start of the recovery agenda, really, where people were coming away from the kind of medicine side and thinking about what was the deep-rooted issues that were enabling people and keeping people in this cycle of addiction. So at that time, a lot of the commission service then were going out to charities, the recovery charities, so organisations that you'd know today, such as We Are With You or Change, Grow, Live. I started working for an organisation called Lifeline Project, and because I was already at an executive level, but I didn't understand the sector, so I took a step into the world of operational delivery and wanted to manage a service before. I've always been an ambitious lady before I knew I was going to rise up the ranks. And I know that sounds a bit kind of, look at me rising up the ranks, but I've always been really ambitious.
No. I think ambition is lifeblood, and ambition can come in many different ways. I mean, aspiration or anything, can't it? It's like you're trying to do the best for yourself, aren't you? That's ambition. It's not. It has terrible connotations now. But ambitious women, it's awful.
Yeah, I
know. Crazy. Oh, God forbid you'd want to do well for yourself.
I know. It's
and I love
part of your psychological well-being, isn't it? That is one of the lifebloods.
But I wanted to learn about the job because it wasn't my sector. So I spent a good 2 years managing a service, and I was quite good at it. And I remember Public Health England having a meeting with them, and this service, which was called BDAS at the time, just Bolton Integrated Drug and Alcohol Service. It had really low performance under the kind of while this transition was happening. So it had gone from being a really successful partnership to this mobilisation into the charitable sector and performance dropping, and public health were like, what's going on here? So me being me and being a bit of a data geek, I was like, let's have a look at the data. What's the data telling us? Let's build in some systems for performance management. I've always been quite data driven and curious.
Have you?
Yeah, because I think sometimes a person can tell you a story about something and it gives you a feeling for what's going on. But when you look at mass numbers, they don't lie.
They don't
So,
really know.
if 50% of the population you try to serve isn't engaging with your service, there's a problem with the front door.
Yeah.
And that's always how I've kind of worked. Let's look at the data, what's it telling us, and then how can we fix that and improve that at the same time as looking at the quality of what's being delivered. Like, what do people think? Do they think it's a good service? Would they recommend it to their mother, their sister, their brother? Their friend and family test for me is the ultimate test.
Yeah.
So yeah, we put a lot of work into improving the performance. And we actually had the fastest turnaround in performance that public health had ever seen across England and Wales in a 6-month period.
Wow.
Nice.
So I did all right there. That was
You
good.
did all right, yeah.
Yeah.
And we've built all these data systems to tell us when reports needed going back. And we were in like one of the top quartiles of performance in the country. And then obviously the executive team started like going, how's she done that? So it was like, oh, can you come to this meeting? And then before you know it, I've got a couple of services. And then, after that, I've got an area.
Yeah.
And then I've got the north.
like Game of Thrones, the north.
I was just thinking that.
Helsinki, yeah. So before you know it, I've got the north. I've got the north of England, and I've got like clinical services and recovery services and centres, and something like £30 million worth of business contracts that I was managing, 650 staff, and I spent all week in my car driving from Bolton to Hull and all the services in between, and it got to a place where I wasn't doing a job that I loved anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was just travelling around the country, and I was the person who came in for the grievance appeal, or I was the person who, if a commissioner knocked 100 grand off your contract value, had to come in and kind of, reprofile it. And I'm like, I'm not sure at my core this is what I want to be doing. I'm so far away from those, from that direct delivery, that thing that kind of lights me up and gives me passion, that I don't want to do that. So I had an opportunity to take a redundancy package, and I took it. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but what I did know is that I didn't want to be working at that level anymore, and it had huge kind of constraints on my health. So you can imagine 800 mile a week in a car. That's really where all my back problems started. Lunging about this heavy briefcase and trolleys and the mobile office. And, phone calls at 10 o'clock at night. And it was like, no, I'm not doing that.
When you're in it, it's really, because I think people listening will really, really resonate with this, because sometimes when you're in it, you don't know till there's a crisis, do you? Like you just do it. It's like get up, go, like get up, go. And then suddenly you think, oh, I feel terrible. And
it's
how
just
did you know
you're doing, isn't it?
I know. How did you know that you were feeling it other than your back?
It was a back issue. So we just mobilised a service in Barnsley, and it was the mobilisation period. And I love mobilisation; they're crazy. Like, you've got teams in from all over the country, and you're setting up systems. And I'm like, this is what I love. I love this. And then it was a late night, probably about 6 o'clock. We'd got out of the office with two colleagues, and I went to my car and I bent over to put my laptop in the back of my car. And my back went. And I was in pain. So my colleague's like, we'll take you to the hospital. And I drove from Barnsley to Rochdale Hospital A&E.
Did you?
Yeah, because I thought, there's no way I'm getting stuck in Barnsley. I've got meetings tomorrow.
I need my car.
Yeah, so I got to the hospital and phoned my partner to come and meet me, and I was he's like, how have you drove? I'm like, I don't know. I just I zoned in on the mode. It's one motorway road. I got off at the exit and I got straight out of the car into A&E, into a wheelchair, and then they pumped me full of medication. So I was a little bit, calmer at the point. Right. And after that, then I had to take a couple of weeks off work. And things change like so quickly at that level. And there was a position that I was interested in applying for, but the interview was the next week. And I don't things align, don't they? And
they are. Yeah, you don't realise at the time, do you? But they are. Yeah.
And this was like the top job. I'm having that top job, and I didn't end up getting the top job because I wasn't in any capacity
Well, I was going to
to
say you were poorly.
or dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And instead of like wait, and I think instead of like waiting for me to recover
Yeah.
because things
Yeah.
move so quick and like nothing stands still, it was just I just missed the opportunity, and
I
that's
think it
really
tells you there a lot, doesn't it, Laura, that it tells you a lot when they don't wait for when you recover, more than actually you not being able to go.
yeah, completely.
You must have thought, right,
No, I thought I'd
enough.
been utterly betrayed, to be quite
Yeah, I
honest.
know. Yeah, I bet
And
you
my
had. I bet you did.
soul to this
Yeah,
organisation, they couldn't even wait for me to get better to be able to properly
yeah.
interview. So that was it. I'd gone then. I'm not doing this anymore. And I really wanted to go back to the roots of supporting people. Like I knew I didn't want to be that kind of frontline caseworker, but I
Yeah.
wanted the work I was doing to directly impact people and families.
Yeah.
So I had a bit of time off. I'd taken a redundancy package, a bit of money, so I didn't have to make any like immediate changes. And I spent time with my second child. So Madison was born when I was 34. So this is where my military connection comes in here. So
Okay.
John, my partner, was in the Queen's Lancashire Regiment for 8 years, and we were together for 12 years. And Madison is a product of that relationship. So once you've been a soldier of the land, the sea, or the air, you're never not a soldier. So, and also in my history, I was brought up by my grandparents and my granddad. Like my mum lived with us, but my mum worked, and I think that's probably where I got my work ethic from. My mum was a single mum, and that was like very, very
Oh, I
kudos back
bet.
in the day. We're a Catholic family, and my mum went to work.
Stacks up.
Yeah, and my grandma and granddad raised me, and they didn't raise me as theirs. I was always my
Yeah.
mum's child, but they parented me, I suppose, because my mum was at work a lot. So my granddad was a veteran of World War II. Never talked about his service, but there was a way of which an aura from my granddad. And he'd talk about things now and then, but never go into the detail of what happened in the war. My granddad was a desert rat, and survived. Yeah,
Wow.
my grandma was a seamstress, so they were quite elderly grandparents. My mum was the youngest
Yeah.
of 4 siblings, so that was an absolute privilege to like share this
Oh,
community
I bet. Yeah.
of like our family were very close, people in and out of the house all the time. I know I'm digressing, but it
Oh no,
all
it's really
Don't
interesting.
worry
I mean,
about it. We love
goodness me.
I'm trying not to jump in with a digression as well because
About the desert
one of
rat. I
my
want to know about the desert rat.
well, no, only because where like one of my granddads was a prisoner of war in
oh
Burma, and I
really?
wish like, but similar thing to you. We like me and my sister were like the last of his grandkids because like my dad was his youngest. And I think he was over having grandkids at that point, do you know what I mean? But also really similar, never spoke about anything until
No.
he got towards the end of his life and then started telling all these really interesting stories. I was 8, didn't understand any of them, but I'd love to hear them now, do you know what
Oh,
I mean?
pull up a sandbag. And I think like there's so much rich history in the military community. My first daughter, her granddad was a soldier of the Black Watch. They're Scottish.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously, so the huge kind of military connections. And then I find myself with somebody who served as well. So yeah, Madison is the product of that relationship, and yeah, so he met me at the hospital. I went home. I had this kind of life changing epiphany that I didn't want to do that anymore. So we was already part of this huge military community that is the Queen's Lancashire Regiment, and lots of friends. And I've always been like the unofficial welfare officer for friends within the
Yeah.
regiment. So it'd be, oh, somebody needs a job application filling out, or can you do a CV? Or I'd wake up and I've got, 4 squaddies in my house that morning that wanted to cook breakfast out on the ale. And that's just the way life was, and I loved it. So we started, so my partner at the time had his own issues that he was dealing with, but what kept him well after service was being outdoors. So we tried to turn that into a bit of a kind of hobby where he could involve his muckers from the military, because everyone struggles after
Yeah.
service. You think
Were
you're all
you?
right.
Can I ask? And obviously, if you don't want to get into it because he's not here to tell his story. But were you with him whilst he was in service, and then the transition, and then afterwards, or was he already out by the time that you
Was
were
already
together?
out by the time.
Okay.
He was already out. But I think what I saw then was a different side of kind of relationships. So I could go down another tangent here about healthy relationships and why we're so focused on it at Armed Forces HQ. But what I did see from friends of people who he served with are just these dropping of relationships, red flags, cheating, lots of kind of different things. And it's like, why? Like, what's happening in those relationships? And I think there's something about when you enter into a relationship with somebody who's served, because there's very high statistics that say it's very unusual for someone to have been in married quarters or being married when they're in the service to still being with that person after
Right.
service, after about 5 to 10 years. That's what relationships break down after service, because people don't know how to live together.
Yeah.
So it's quite rare, actually, for women to still be with the partner that they were with when they
I
were
can
in
understand
service.
that.
Yeah.
But from a relationship perspective, what do you need to know as a woman if you're going to embark, or a man, if you're going to embark on in a relationship with somebody who has served? Because it is very
Yeah.
different
It's a great
to a
question.
normal relationship. And that's why a lot of the work that we do at Armed Forces HQ is about healthy relationships,
No, I love
not
that.
just from, the soldier, sailor, Air Force perspective, but what's it like to be in a relationship? It was like, what would you have to be cautious about? What would you need to look out for? What are the signs that perhaps something's not right, and things are being hidden that could affect your
Yeah.
relationship long term? So we started this outdoor education business where we were taking people who were member of the Armed Forces community on walks and hikes and doing all the good stuff that people did. And it got so popular within like the civilian communities locally that it was impossible to apply for grants. So that was our first community interest company that we set up. It became impossible to apply for military, not-for-profit grant-funded grants, because about 80% of our beneficiaries were civilians. So we're like, oh, this is brilliant that everybody
Yeah.
wants to do this. But yeah, what we're going to do now? So we set up a company called Activate. And then for one reason or another, which we need a whole new podcast for, our relationship ended. So we were like, okay, that's done. So at that time, Wigan had commissioned this service in Wigan Town Centre, Wigan Borough Armed Forces Community HQ, and my ex-partner's regimental sergeant major had just been employed as the strategic lead for armed forces at the council. And he kind of knew that there needed to be like a health and well-being offer in this facility. And he asked us to come in and talk about how we could help develop that. And during that period, we'd separated. So my ex-partner went off. He didn't want anything more to do with him, to do with the sector. He wanted to just do his own thing. But I was like, I could really add some value here from my experience of writing bids, mobilising projects, managing health and social care services, being a registered manager for CQC. And when I started to look at the sector and what was actually being delivered, there was lots of people setting up small charities, but with absolutely no experience of the health and social care sector, and actually what that means. So I thought, okay, I can probably do some really good work here. Let's see what happens. So for about 6 months, I worked within that service, helping, advising, guiding. And then in July 2019, they asked me if I'd like to join the board, which I accepted. And that was
How
the
did you
start.
feel?
I felt, well, number one, I felt sad that they needed to invest in somebody who could probably bring more expertise, and that it wasn't kind of there already. And then
Yeah.
second, I felt like I had a new purpose.
Yeah.
That where I could like directly support beneficiaries that I could see and feel in a way that it was strategic and played to my skills. So yeah, that was the start of our journey. And yeah, July 2019, I'm sat at the desk, like, where's the books? Where's this? Where's that? Where's the policies? And I thought, oh God,
Excuse me.
this is going
Yeah.
to be a huge job. And we just like rolled our sleeves up and got cracking. But there weren't a lot of money in the bank because there wasn't a lot of funding, and people wanted this kind of gold standard service. But when I looked at the bank account that had £7,000 in it, I'm
Yeah.
thinking, are we going to make payroll in a couple of
Yeah.
months? Never mind how we're, going to deliver fantastic services. So at that point, the very first bid, large bid from the Armed Forces Covenant Fund Trust was released, and it was called Tackling Serious Stress in Veterans, Families and Carers. And what we loved about that was it wasn't just about veterans, it was about their families and carers, and that recognition that that whole kind of family unit and everything surrounded deserved support in their own right. So we had a look at the criteria and thought, God, there's no way like little old Wigan are going to win this here. But when we started looking at the different patches where people were going to be applying for money, we thought, wouldn't it be interesting to look at a region versus a local authority and the differences between what that means to individuals? So I spent Christmas writing this bid, thinking we've got no chance of winning this. But the concept was amazing, and like the whole team had put their absolute heart and soul into creating this bid. And then we got a call to say you've been awarded
Yay.
funding, and that was the start, really, of what we call a core offer at Armed Forces HQ. So that money, so this sounds a lot, 465k, I think it was, over 2 years, which was massive for us. We got
Yeah.
7 grand.
Yeah.
Working with Wigan Council to be that corporate parent, because we're still quite a young and fledgling company. And it was like, this is brilliant. We're going to do amazing things. So what we managed to do with that money was look at the infrastructure of the organisation. What are people coming through the door and telling us, and what do we need in response to that? We needed immediate support around
Yeah.
clinical psychology. We needed caseworkers who could navigate the like plethora of kind of barriers and challenges that the armed forces community were coming up against. We needed somebody to sit on reception because people were walking through the door every 2 minutes, and that's where the core offer came from. So we delivered that for 2 years, and we did a really good job. So at one point, we had more people on our programme than the other 7 portfolio holders had altogether. And they were like,
Oh
how
my
the
God.
hell are you doing that? And we said, it's local relationships.
Yeah.
Like, it's local delivery that matters. So as an organisation in a local authority, we're small enough to know who every single armed forces champion is, who every third sector organisation that can help us is. And that all adds to a service user journey and makes it something incredible. But can you imagine being a regional caseworker working across the Northwest and having to know who every single contact was in every single local authority? It's
No.
not
Yeah.
doable. And that's why collaboration and partnerships and bringing
Yeah.
local delivery into partnerships is so important. So yeah, we delivered that for 2 years, did a good job. And then the Armed Forces Covenant Fund Trust offered continuation funding, but in a little bit of a different guise. So they wanted those organisations who proved themselves to then go and mentor other organisations who'd picked
Okay.
up funding processes. So we were mentoring 10 organisations across the country on one of their programmes and helping them with governance and support and partnerships. And that was really, really interesting time because
That is interesting. Yeah.
we got to see the plethora of the like support that's
Yeah.
available and out there. So we were working with everyone from the Military Wives Choir to Curzon National Football Club to SAFA, like all across the country. And then we sat back and we thought we could probably have like an impact regionally here. And we don't want to just contain the support offer to
Yeah.
Wigan Borough, because by this time we're already getting people from St Helens, from West Orton, from Bolton, and they're coming, and it's like we can't offer a service because we've got this very, very small closed patch. And at that point we decided to expand our reach and change our name. And some of our service users weren't very happy about it because it was their place and their safety
Yeah.
protected. But we then became Armed Forces Community HQ.
Yeah.
And then from there, we started delivering projects across Greater Manchester. And then from there, we started delivering projects across the Northwest. So to date, we deliver the Reducing Veterans Homelessness programme across the Northwest. So that is a programme where we should have worked with 80 beneficiaries over 2 years, 80 homeless veterans. We've worked with over 300 and we've housed 150. And
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the model, this high fidelity model, so, low caseloads, that went straight
Yeah.
out the window because the demand for people
Yeah.
coming
I
forward
think
was
you're right. You can't numbers really astound me when you have to put numbers. I get it when you have to put numbers to bits, but actually that's so restrictive, isn't it? Because if it works, you should have a model and a system that allows you to do that. And I think that's absolutely phenomenal to house 150 people. The difference you've
Yeah.
made is
yeah.
just you and the team is unbelievable. Yeah.
And
I can't believe the amount, like the exponential growth that has happened in 7 years, which is not like, it's not a lot of time, is it? That must have been
now
mental.
we've gone
Yeah. I
from
was gonna.
turning over £80,000 in 2018 to like over 1.2 million in 7 years, and we've doubled our turnover. And when I talk about the
It's
strategic
incredible.
experience to run a business,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very different to the passion that I
Yeah.
feel for the armed forces community because I am a member of that community. But that's not what we have in the sector. We have people who have the heart, but they don't have the
Yeah.
occupational experience to make their business grow and sustain.
Work. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we have a lot of problems in this sector with envy and jealousy and people not wanting to work in partnership. And that's the really sad bit about it because it doesn't have to be like that.
No, I think it's really interesting that you say that because we're women of our time, and one of the things we've had to sort of get off our high horse about is a similar thing, which is
Mm-hmm.
exactly the same thing in the women's arena. Do you know,
Well,
loads of
you know what?
organisations?
I'm glad it's not just this sector. And I know
It's
that's really
no, it's not.
selfish.
I think
I
it's
think it's
called
when it's passion.
anywhere where there is a sector, there is like division, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's like you can't believe the fiefdoms. It's like
Yeah.
Joe, it's like the old, times of Henry the bloody eighth, when you've got all the lords across the country. And I think it's really interesting. I was reflecting the other day on jealousy. I was talking about it to somebody who works with us, and about how we should talk about that and how it impacts
How it impacts
stuff.
us as individuals. And I
Yeah.
think the thing is about leadership. I was always a firm believer that you should be swan-like. So I take a lot of stress away from my team by being the swan. So above
Mm.
water, everything's cool, everything's calm, it's all collected. But underneath, I'm like pedaling
Yeah.
to keep people safe, keep
Yeah.
people employed. Where's the next contract coming from? How
Yeah.
do I make this
It's
business
terrifying.
sustainable? And it's really hard to be able to do that when you're under constant attack from
Yeah.
organisations. And nobody sees from a leadership perspective the times when you are so burnt out from work that all you can do is sit in the chair.
Yeah.
I've got a chair in the corner, which is my contemplation chair, my daughter calls it. And when I'm like at the bottom where I know I'm going to burn out, if she sees me sat in that chair for 2 days doing nothing but like drinking a brew and looking into thin air, she'd be like, Mum, you need some time out. And I'm like, oh, okay, like I get so that's
Yeah.
my trigger to say, Laura, you're doing too
Yeah.
much. You just need to have a think about yourself. But yeah, it's been a strange experience being successful in
Yeah.
a sector where people aren't very
Yeah.
successful. And I mean, all kinds of rumours and, oh God, I've heard all kinds of stuff about myself. It's quite interesting, really. I mean,
Yeah, I bet you wish half of it was
I've
true. Yeah.
done things that other people think I'd done. I'd be a really interesting person. Like,
Yeah.
I always remember when I worked at Asda that I was the HR lady person, and there was a guy called John in the warehouse, and he was not the bonniest of people, and he walked into the canteen one day and went, "Hey, Pricey," he went, "apparently we're having an affair," and he was absolutely delighted, and I was like, "Oh my God!" But I think you're a female in this environment, and you bring a different perspective. So unfortunately, in this awful culture we have, people think you're right to attack,
oh
like,
God,
and it's not fair, is it? Because actually, think about if you could, like as Ellie said, over 7 years, if you could say you've helped I'm just going to make it up, 3,000, 5,000 people, but the ripple effect of how you've helped their families, you're probably talking
Yeah.
20, 25,000, and you're doing that. You're not doing that out of the goodness of your heart. You're doing it as a really good business leader. You are doing, there is a
Yeah.
passion, do you know what I mean? But you can't, sorry, I'm rambling here, can't do it all from the goodness of your heart, because
you
you
absolutely
wouldn't,
can't.
you
You wouldn't
can't.
be able to do it. And I remember
No.
getting an email once from a local councillor asking me why I took a salary to do my job if it was charitable.
From
And
your
I'm like,
right. Okay,
so
that's interesting.
you want me to be a managing director of this organisation? It's work 60 to 70 hours a week, do that for free, not have a mortgage, not be able to feed my children. If you broke down my salary and my hours,
Yeah.
I'd be on minimum wage,
You'd
under
be on minimum
minimum
wage. You will be on minimum wage. 100%
And
you
also,
will.
literally doesn't
Yeah.
matter, because how on God's green earth are you asking somebody to justify their job? I'd be doing the same
people think that
thing.
they
I'd be
can.
saying, "Go on, how do you?" Oof, right.
What's your, I think you're a really mentally tough person. We do a lot of work on mental toughness, but I think you're very self-aware is what I would say. So how do you get up and, like, how do you deal with it? Say you get like a odd remark from someone, or, like somebody's rude. How does Laura cope with that? Because there's only so many things you can get thrown at you, isn't there, before
Yeah,
something
and I think
happens?
some of that is like resilience. So it's like the rubber band theory. So I've put this many rubber bands on me, and like something could hit, couldn't it?
Yeah,
But the more like rubber bands you put on, eventually, whatever somebody chucks at me, it's just going to bounce off.
bounce off.
I'm a firm believer in the kind of Mel Robbins let them kind of principle. Now, don't get me wrong, this has taken me a good 10 years to develop
Yeah.
this mentality. And, I've been hurt, I've cried, I've been broken at times by the things that other people have said. But fundamentally, what I believe now is that everything that somebody says about me is a projection of how they feel about themselves.
Yeah,
And when you learn to understand that people only speak from their own insecurities, you learn grace, and you learn to be tolerant, and you learn to be blinkered. So I can't be bothered about what everybody else is saying about me, because the minute I do that, I stop focusing on my business, and
yeah.
then I drop my hat. So let them crack on. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt me
I think
anymore.
I think it's
And
important
it's
thing
not
for
going to
people
make a
listening.
difference. Yeah.
I think it is important to say, and I think you're absolutely right, Laura, that does you, because I get fed up of people giving you that advice, like lean in, like, and overnight you're going to be able to let them. I think it's a
Yeah,
really important
no,
thing that you
10
said, that
years.
it
Yeah.
takes years. Like, so don't worry, everybody. You'll eventually not give a shite.
Yeah, no, but that it is, but no, it is true, because it's exactly like you said, Laura. Like, it's not about anyone else. You've got to get yourself to the point where you don't care, and it's not like, you're not as insecure
Yeah,
about whatever had said had hurt you, because they've hit a nerve with you, and when you've worked through that, then you don't give a shit what they say.
No,
Like,
not what I mean.
sorry.
My field of fox is barren. Like, it really is, because like there's only so many times that people can attack you when you recover back into your chair of contemplation,
yeah,
and you start to worry about like who you are, and
yeah.
like
It's
me. Like,
terrible.
I don't know how many times I've like sat there thinking, is this me? Like, have I
Yeah.
created? Have I made people? And I'm like,
And also
no.
then I'm a big useless at taking responsibility. Oh, well, that was my fault. I must, like, and you think, God Almighty.
Oh yeah, you did, like, the amount of people that you've taken. I thought, like, when you go, no, I know it was me, and you think it really wasn't in any capacity at all. But
No.
But like,
I
what?
think,
Yeah, what have I done to make that happen? Could have I behaved in a different way? And I'm like, everything that you go through in leadership over a long period of time is a rite of passage, isn't it?
Yeah,
If you
it
didn't
is.
go through those rites of passage that feel really difficult at the time,
And
when
lonely.
yeah, it's very lonely actually, because
Really
like you've
lonely.
got to
Yeah.
talk to. So unless you've got like really good peers who you respect and I'm lucky. So I can open my phone book and I can contact 10 people that I completely respect, admire, and I know that they will give me impartial advice from a kind of peer support
Yeah.
perspective. If you don't have that, that's really dangerous, because you can really internalize what people
Yeah.
say about you. And the other thing I learned to do, which was really hard, was to sit on my hands and just let things pass, because I am naturally like a very reactive person. And like, but back in welfare to work days, they used to call me Pitbull, because the job centre knew that if they sent somebody to me to get a job, they'd be getting a job. Like, whether
Yeah.
send him to Pitbull, like she'll sort him out. Not worked for 20 years. Send him to Pitbull. And I've gone through my life like changing from Pitbull to like
Who are
leopard.
you now?
I don't know what I am now, like a little fairy, I think, like sat on a food stall. Just
Tinkerbell.
yeah, Tinkerbell.
yeah,
There you go, making wishes come true
Yeah. But from a distance.
from a distance, because
That's what, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I like the position of where I work, and I think I've got the perfect balance, and I'm very lucky to have that. I've got a really nice team that I'm
you do.
connected
Yeah,
to,
you
but not
have, yeah.
too connected to at the front
Yeah.
line. But who knows, they could pick up the phone and ask me a question. Like, that's really important to me. I can see service users growing and developing, and I hear the good news stories. But I can also do what I love, which is the strategic development of the organisation. And I am responsible for those people's mortgages. Like,
Yeah.
I do not take that responsibility lightly. So you can chuck as many grenades at me from the side as you like, but I'm bothered about where we're going to be in the next 3 to 5 years, because we're all right for 3 years. So that isn't my job. Like, I know the staff team are qualified and able to keep the ship running, but I need to make sure we've got new waters to sail in the future. And if I get bogged down with kind of what's happening now, I can't do that job, and I can't look forward.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of experience over the years with vulnerable adults, vulnerable children, and sometimes from an employer perspective with the veterans. And what I think you said it earlier, I've never seen such a disjointed approach to like a really common problem.
Absolutely.
When you look at the research, it's always about the veterans, or their veterans' families can't access it, they don't know who to talk to, and you think it's a common. I'm going to use the word common, not in a generic way, but it's a common problem about veterans that a whole jigsaw of solutions have been put in, and navigating it must exhaust you. Like,
It's so difficult. But that's why we proved on our very first program that it's local delivery
yeah,
that
no, it's great.
and we've had to like stay really true to that, because to be honest with you, we've had contracts where we could have employed all our own staff. I could have recruited people from all over the Northwest, and we've chosen not to do that.
Yeah.
We chose to go to those organisations who know that locality.
Yeah.
Because number one, they know the people and they know the need. They know the professionals and the third sector that can help add value to the journey. And we want to help them survive. Like, we're not an organisation that wants to like swallow up companies. And that the whole ethos for us of local delivery works. We've always kept true to our heart. So when we get Northwest contracts, we don't go, oh right, let's go and employ a load of people.
Yeah.
We go to our trusted partners and we say, let's share, let's share the load. What you get then is a culture of leadership, like being able to share skills and experience, and being able to mobilise staff across the
and
Northwest.
accountability as well. you know, like you know that the people in the locality want to deliver it. Do you know, like that's cool. What is if you think, coming back to you as the managing director of now the Armed Forces Community HQ, what's your leadership like now? How are you different, or what's going on with you as leader of this
Oh
community?
gosh, there's a couple of just lessons really. So for me, at the moment, it's about succession planning, and because there's I love my organisation, but there's also things that I want to do as well.
Yeah.
And I've got to think about. I mean, I'm not saying I'm an old biddy yet, but
Collagen, creatine.
every supplement, known to man. And I'm thinking, who's going to take over? So one
Yeah.
of the big things for me is making sure that the staff who I work with have the skills and the experience to be able to run at the side of me, so that I can share the load, develop their skills, make sure that they're mentally well. That's really important to me. That making sure my team are building the mental resilience that it takes to run a business. And, if I can help somebody learn a lesson and not go through it without having to go through it, I'd rather do that. But sometimes people have to go through rites of passage. So I don't interfere when people might be getting a little bit too much out of the depth, because I do believe in mission command. So I'd rather you took initiative and pull you back a little bit rather than stifle your growth and your innovation. And that's just the way I am. I give people autonomy to do what they do, but we have boundaries around the way we operate. So we have core values and we have policies. But I'm very lucky to have an amazing staff team. So leadership looks for me like bringing process to chaos. That's something that I believe I have good skills at. Making sure that people understand what the parameters of the job, making sure people get trained and developed and feel invested into. I don't think there's one of my team that would say that they haven't been invested into. That stuff's really important to me, because if my people are happy, they will look after our community. If they're not happy, I'm not getting anywhere near 60% out of people, let alone to 100. So yeah, and I know it's sometimes people say it's quite toxic to say you have a family-based work environment. But yeah, I suppose rather than like brothers and sisters, we're possibly cousins and aunts. So there's a familiarity within the team and trust, but people know who makes decisions and whether I'm
to have that clarity.
that makes sense. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think there's a fine line between having that sort of family friendly environment and then having a lack of discipline and a lack of accountability and people taking the mickey. So what you mentioned before we finished, you mentioned yourself, Laura, that's what I'm thinking about, Lisa, to change that L.
Well, I think we're now with Lysora. We're kind of
cute.
Laurisa, yeah. I was just going to ask, what do you want to do for yourself in the next sort of 6 months then? What's on your agenda for you?
For me, I think my own core values of maintaining my own health. So it's really, like we talked about before the podcast, it's really easy when you're busy to drop the things that are good for you. So next 6 months, I need to get back into a routine so I don't end up with issues with slip discs and on high dose medication where I can't string a sentence together because I don't enjoy it. Organisationally, we're just always planning for the future. Like if we stop now and think what are we doing now and what's available now all the time, there's no strategic vision, is there?
Yeah.
So you kind of don't know where you're going. So next 6 months on a personal level, it's health and family. And on a business level, it's getting back into the bones of strategic planning after the summer holidays and the holiday season and everybody kind of crossing like ships. And I feel like September to December is about just getting back together
Like a
and everybody
reset.
on the same page.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
reading something yesterday about like it was nothing to do with business. It was one of these like nature things that September's about reset, about letting go of what the year's gone, and I thought, oh, that's a really lovely like analogy about how to look back on the last 2/3 of the year and use this time to sort of reset. So
Yeah, and I
yeah,
love autumn. Like autumn is my month, so I'm a September girl. I was born in September, so
Yeah.
when I start to see the leaves turning and the pumpkin, like my daughters are already buying pumpkins from
are
being
they
yeah, yeah. We're very much a Halloweeny
Halloween?
kind of
Yeah.
household, so
I
they're
think
I
very
it's
was
just
reading
like
something.
I walked the
Sorry,
dog
go on.
this morning and even just like the temperature is starting to get nicer. Do you know what I mean?
smell
Like, oh,
it.
just like more manageable. Yeah, it's great. And now it's boiling again, so it was a load of anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So, last
amazing.
and final question then for you, Laura. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us. If you had to pick a song to be the theme song for your life, what song would it be?
Oh, I've been thinking about this since you mentioned it at the beginning, and it's got to be kind of Gloria Gaynor, isn't it? Like I
Oh,
was
nice. Yeah.
alive, so because like you do go through parts of your life where you like question every decision that you've made, every path that you've took, and like you always seem to come out the other end. But I know I've talked a lot about rites of passage, but I just think in life there's things that you have to go through to kind of understand yourself a little bit more,
No, I agree.
understand people in your environment, recognize when somebody's kind of projecting their own insecurities onto me. But through each bit of adversity that I've had, and I've had some really shit times in my life, like everybody else has, I've survived and like come out the other end, and then I've gone down a different path and things have been better. So I don't know. Maybe we.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in survival mode, but I know that whatever's
Yeah.
happening, I'll
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah,
I think that's
absolutely.
one of the real things Leslie and I wanted to set up Women of Our Time Support Hub was because it's an inevitability that you go through crap times.
Absolutely.
But actually they are the biggest learning ones. If you're in a safe, if you've got people around you who love you, people who around you trust, people who around you who challenge you, like, and that women, our support hub is sort of, I guess, similar to what you're doing, which is offering people that place, which is okay, it is crap, but you will survive.
We'll
Like,
survive.
but
Absolutely.
actually you've got to go through it, and so I think that's lovely. Actually, that could be the
Yeah.
theme tune of it's going to be a Whoop playlist,
Oh,
so
I
some
love
absolute bangers on it.
that.
Yeah.
No, thank
Oh
you.
no, that's been brilliant. It's been it's been really interesting just to hear your story, and I think just really like it's an inspiration. I know sounds like one of those words that people use all the time, but it is. It's like it's a really inspiring story. So yeah, so thank you
If
for
you can
taking the
get to one woman to say you can choose a different way of
Yeah,
life, and just because you've had a child young, or just
yeah,
because you don't come from the most affluent background,
yeah.
or just because if one woman can hear that and make the
Oh, it's
best
amazing.
of herself,
Well,
then
yeah, I bet we could have done a whole podcast on what having like your kids at the time that you had your kids. Like, maybe we'll have you back on, Laura. We'll do that
I
one next
think that
time.
one of the no, it's really interesting because one of the things for the 10 million hours of support was exactly to your point, which is put the right person with the right person at the right time. That's too many rights, but you know what I mean. And in
yeah,
an
Yeah,
hour, you can really make a difference, and I think that's a really lovely way of like, because you can't just think, oh, every
it's the dog.
interaction you have, you've got to. I believe you've got to try and make a difference to those people. So no,
yeah,
honestly, it's been amazing. And what I really love is your
Yeah,
story is about you can have a passion, but if you don't have a business and strategy one, you won't make the difference in the world you want to make. And I think that's a
or
really great
yeah,
message.
yeah, and to have
Yeah,
those people around you if you can't do it, because like it's not everyone is born with how your mind works, Laura. Do you know what I mean? But it's really important. Yeah, it
I'm
is.
I am
glad.
going to go get myself a contemplation chair. Contemplation chair's on my list.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we better go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we better go. No,
Been
thank you.
delightful.
Honestly, thank you.
No,
My dog
thank
is
you.
complaining at me. She'd like to leave the room. So thank you, Laura, and thank you everyone for listening. And
Thank you.
we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.